What will your name be?
I don't need to hide my identity, so I already have a name. I am El Chavo.
Neon City was never kind to the weak. Among filthy alleys and ruined buildings, where the stench of misery blended with the flickering neon lights of underground clubs, a nameless boy was born. His parents, heroin addicts, died when he was 6. With no future, he grew up in the forgotten corners of the city, among the rejected, the invisible, those the world had chosen to ignore. Surviving on scraps from the rich and petty theft, he learned early on that kindness was a luxury few could afford. The alleys were his home, the sewers his refuge. Between one struggle and another, his life was an endless cycle of hunger and fear. But hunger could be endured. Fear, however, could not. Because in Neon City, fear had a name: Killer Clown. He wasn't just a criminal, he was a walking nightmare. A ruthless man dressed as a terrifying clown, feeding off the despair of others. Those who fell into his hands weren't simply killed, they were destroyed. To the boy, the name Killer Clown was a silent warning etched into the walls of the alleys. And then, one night, the warning became reality. It happened fast. The boy didn't see where they came from, didn't have time to run. Men emerged from the shadows surrounding him. He tried to fight, but fear froze his muscles. He was dragged into one of the city's abandoned warehouses, thrown onto the cold floor like an animal. In front of him, a figure moved through the yellow glow of a broken sign. A painted smile, eyes as cold as the abyss.
"You are nothing,"
Killer Clown whispered, as if tasting a dish before devouring it.
"You have 2 choices. Become my slave or die. Everyone can be useful for something. Decide what you will be."
Even in fear, El Chavo responded,
I hate you. You killed all my friends. You got my parents addicted to your filthy drug. I will never join you.
The boy tasted blood in his mouth before the first blow landed. Then, darkness followed. He should have died there. He should have been just another nameless body lost in the shadows of Neon City. But then, something happened. A figure tore through the darkness as fast as the wind, as deadly as a blade. Killer's men fell before they even understood what hit them. But Killer, like every coward, fled immediately, abandoning all his henchmen. And then, the shadow stopped before the boy. A symbol, a myth. It was the shadow. It wasn't mercy that made him save the boy. The shadow was no savior. He was a man of war, a vigilante driven by his own crusade. But when he looked at that beaten child, eyes filled with hatred and pain, knowing that the boy refused to join. The clown, he saw something familiar. He saw someone who knew hell just as well as he did.
If you want to live, get up.
The boy got up. He never forgot that day, nor what the shadow did for him. Over time he grew, learned to fight, to survive in smarter ways. He began following in the footsteps of the one who saved him, becoming a ghost in the streets, gathering information, protecting the forgotten in his own way. The shadow never made him any promises, but deep down, he knew the boy was different. That one day, he could become something more. Years later, the city had changed, but fear still crawled through the alleys. The name Killer Clown had returned, echoing in the whispers of the night. Brutal murders, disappearances. He was back. El Chavo watched from a distance, hidden among the shadows, listening to conversations between drug dealers and hired killers. He was no longer a scared child. He was fast, invisible. He heard secrets, collected hidden truths. And then, that night, he found something big. The information was clear. Killer Clown was planning something that would bring Neon City to its knees. He couldn't fight alone. He knew that. But he knew someone who could. Chavo climbed to the top of an abandoned building and activated a small improvised communicator, a crude device that picked up a specific frequency. The frequency of the shadow.
Oh, I know where Killer is.
He said, his voice steady, without hesitation.
And I want to help.
There was silence on the other end, and then, for the first time since that night in the warehouse, he heard his voice.
Let's meet. It's time for you to level up.
The boy with no prospects, the orphan from the alleys, the kid who should have died, had just taken his first step toward becoming something more. The rooftop was battered by the cold wind of dawn. El Chavo waited, feeling the tension grip his skin. He knew the shadow didn't respond to just anyone, but he knew he wasn't just anyone anymore. When the silhouette emerged from the darkness, it was like a tear in reality. The wind seemed to hush. The weight of the shadow's presence was something words couldn't describe.
Speak.
His voice was deep, firm. El Chavo didn't hesitate. He told everything, about the criminals' movements, about the whispers in the alleys, about what he had discovered. Killer Clown was gathering forces, planning something big, something beyond mere crimes. There was a name he kept hearing, Bicorp. The shadow was silent for a long time. When he spoke, it wasn't a response, it was a judgment.
You did well, but it's not enough.
El Chavo clenched his fists.
I want to fight. I want to learn. You saved me once. Now let me repay you.
The shadow studied the boy for a moment, as if weighing his words, his intentions, his worth. Then he turned and simply said,
Come.
The vigilante's hideout was a sanctuary of shadows and technology. Screens flickered, weapons and equipment were meticulously arranged. El Chavo had never seen anything like it.
You've survived this long because you know how to hide. But fighting is something else. I can teach you. But if you fail, if you're not strong enough, the city will swallow you whole.
El Chavo didn't back down.
I'm ready.
The days that followed were brutal. The shadow didn't go easy on him. Every blow El Chavo took was a reminder that the real world didn't give second chances. But he didn't give up. He learned to move better, to fight more efficiently, to use the shadows to his advantage. But something was missing. El Chavo had no proper combat suit. He was too poor to have many options. The outfit he had worn since childhood was a symbol, an improvised armor of someone who never had anything. The shadow understood that and asked his ally Alfred to create something worthy of him. The new suit didn't erase his identity, it enhanced it. The fabric was reinforced, flexible, and resistant. The green cap had become part of a tactical hood. The red straps added a distinctive touch to the reinforced vest. He was still himself. But now, much more. The shadow looked at him and asked the final question.
What will your name be?
El Chavo smiled.
I don't need to hide my identity, so I already have a name. I am El Chavo.
Neon City burned in its eternal decay. But now something had changed. The war was about to begin. And, for the first time, El Chavo wasn't running from it. He was walking toward it.
If you want to continue following this story, subscribe to our channel and activate notifications.